Okay, we'll get going. So next up we've got Nick and Matthew talking about blended learning. So Nick and Matthew, are you ready?
Yes, certainly. The astute among you will notice I've actually connected to this twice. So, because I'm going to talk to you through my laptop and also use my iPad to present. So, what I will do then is share my screen on my iPad, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, so let's make a start, I suppose. So this is joint work with myself and Matthew Jones. The idea is that I'm going to plough through the presentation, and Matthew will join us for questions afterwards. So I want to talk to you about the experiences we've had with recording video lectures, both before and after the lockdown period. I'm not a person to let a good pun go to waste, so the talk is split into two halves. There's the ingredients and then adding it to your blend. So the ingredients is the background information. So from 2017, we started experimenting with videoing whiteboards as a way of getting lecture content that students could look at in the future, rather than just going to a single lecture once and having to use their memories. And so we produce lots of videos that look a little bit like this. And as you can see, you can barely read any of the whiteboards at all. And this wasn't hugely effective in terms of producing quality content. But nevertheless, the students actually loved this. The simple fact that they could relive the lecture more than once proved to be very popular in all the surveys that we did. But we decided there was a lot of work to actually set up the video for this. So to try and make better quality videos, in October 2018, we actually issued all the specialist math staffs with iPads, pencils and dongles to better produce these video lectures. So the workflow was something like this. So we would prepare slides, which is optional, but we can just scribble directly on a blank PDF if we liked. We would then use the iPad to present in a very similar way as I'm doing now. So this would mean either kind of dongling into a projector or connecting wirelessly. One of the advantages of a wireless connection in a lecture room is that you could actually wander around the classroom while presenting information. We would then handwrite on the slides that using the Apple Pencil. And at the same time, we would be recording both the screen and the audio. There's a technical reason why you shouldn't use a native iPad screen recorders to do this. And then you'd have a beautiful video of slides with audio and video content being added in real time, which you can then upload to your learning management system. So we use Moodle, or a flavor of Moodle at least. So here's an example of one of the, my apologies. Here's an example of one of the what a lecture would look like. So here's a familiar theorem from second year analysis. So we could present information like this and then just simply annotate it. So one of the key things in this proof is to try and understand what this object is. And we can do this by sketching away. So here is some space X, here's another space Y, and there's a map T which goes between them, and you get the idea, right? So we can kind of add this video, and then this video is available afterwards. Okay, so that was one ingredient. So this was very well received. We adopted this approach in most of the specialist maths modules at Middlesex by September 2019. And between us, Matt and I have done about 200 hours of iPad recorded lectures across the undergraduate and postgraduate provision. All of these are available on our Moodle site for students to watch again. The students love it. Okay, so we did some kind of surveys to get some feedback from this, and in fact some of them have said that the availability of these videos is their favourite thing about the teaching, and they like exploring it in their own time. They find the recordings are very useful even though they attend the lectures, and it's worth noting we've not actually noticed any drop-off in attendance since we started recording every minute of every lecture. And yes, overall the reception was very, very positive indeed. It's highly utilised, so we found that some students are even kind of stripping out the audio from the videos to listen on their commutes, and we find that most students are accessing the videos around 3 times in addition to attending the lecture. So the students have got are able to view the content, well, a total of 4 times there. So they find that they are very much making use of this stuff. And in fact, when we first trialed this on a few modules, it became highly requested across all modules. And in fact, the modules that didn't have this extensive video recording ended up doing slightly worse in their end of year surveys, with the sole comment being, please video the lectures. So it just goes to show how quickly the students' expectations adapt. So yes, one piece of advice is don't introduce this in a piecemeal way. So the final ingredient, of course, was lockdown itself, right? So in March 2020, we were locked down. We were able to move this delivery very quickly to Zoom using laptops and iPads. So to do exactly what I'm doing now, which is to connect both devices to the same Zoom meeting, okay? So I have my laptop in front of me for engaging with the students and keeping track of who's here and who's paying attention. And then the iPad is to present and annotate. And there are then several options for recording. You can either use the Zoom recording, which I believe is happening, the cloud recording feature. This is also being streamed live to YouTube. But also you can use inbuilt recording on apps. So here, this is the app that I'm using to present is your Vittle Pro. I'll give some details about this later. And if you see at the top of the screen there is a timer ticking along this video. The app itself is recording a video, which will be a very clean version with no video of me in it, and just the slides that in the bars at the top, which is a kind of a nice, clean version of the annotated slides. So we found that this transition was in fact totally seamless, and we didn't lose a single hour of lecture when the lockdown was suddenly imposed. So with these ingredients, how can we add this to our blend for teaching in the coming academic year? Well, first of all, some comments about video editing. So the single piece of advice I would have is do not do any video editing as a general rule. You know, we started initially by editing out all the ums and ahs and, dare we say, the occasional error. But it's unsustainable. There's too much work to do to process the volume of video that we were producing. And also, you know, because we are recording live lectures, then the students, they don't have the same level of expectation for the kind of high quality polished YouTube stuff, especially in the kind of the quantity that we're going to be producing. And in fact, there's also some benefit to this. I mean, I find that the students really react well when I make a mistake. I say why I suddenly realized I've made a mistake, engage them in that process, show them how to correct that mistake, because this is kind of the process that the students will be engaged with a lot in their mathematics education, and it would do them disservice, I think, to edit out how more experienced people deal with getting things wrong and going back and correcting them. Of course, we hope it doesn't happen, but inevitably it does from time to time. Although I said that there should be no kind of editing, I do advocate for a bit of post-processing. So this is the most technical slide in this very short talk. So the fact that I think both Zoom and certainly the recording from the Vittle Pro app, or just using the native iPad screen recording, it does produce kind of quite large files. And there were lots of kind of accessibility issues with having these very large files. So we do want to try and re-encode them. Again, I don't advocate opening these up in kind of video editing suites in order to do that, because that's precious time to deal with that. So I really would advocate learning how to re-encode videos on the command line. So essentially what happens is the video is exported as a .mov file or something like that. And there's a totally free open source video encoding software, FFmpeg, and this single line of code that you can write in the console will turn it into a nice MP4, which is compressed, much more easy for students to access. They can get more on a device. So I would recommend doing your students the service of compressing the files for them. It does take some time, but this can be done overnight if you set it up in an efficient way. What I didn't do, but wish I did and will be doing going forwards, is to bookmark the videos. So here you see that this was a 1 hour 42 video in this example. There's a lot of information in there. So we'd like the students to be able to find specific information quite quickly. So for example, when I talk about definition 3.2, it would be good to put a bookmark there so students can find it easily. So when we first moved online, we did find that there were some kind of issues with students' access to these materials. So, there is this digital divide, or digital poverty is another way it's been referred to. And we can't assume that students have good access to the internet or their own laptop to access these materials. So how can we kind of deal with this? There's another issue, which is that if the student does have a laptop, then we are basically appropriating it as our projector screen and our whiteboard. So if a student is used to using their laptop for note-taking or whatever else, and then we are requiring a portion of their laptop, or maybe even the entire screen to use as a projector, then it makes the students' work less efficient. And this is even worse if the lecture notes we produce are digital lecture notes as well. I mean, we could be having students juggling 3 important screens of information on possibly like a 15-inch laptop. So there's an issue there with moving to this online delivery. And one of the big things in mathematics, as we've seen in some of the previous talks, is that we need to see students' handwritten work, ideally in real time. This idea of kind of walking behind students in a seminar and kind of spotting mistakes, say, okay, can you tell me you've missed a step out there, or can you justify that line from this line, or whatever? How do we get that kind of that real-time feedback from students' handwritten work? The plan, how we're going to deal with this, is we're going to have an initial mail shot of printed lecture notes. All the students will possibly be able to collect on campus. We're still working the details out there. And then also with regards to internet access, we want to make sure that any offline videos, that videos are accessible in an offline way. So they should be able to download the videos, not just make them available on YouTube, but they should be able to grab the videos and then watch at their leisure without requiring an internet connection. So students may be accessing this material by using coffee shop Wi-Fi once a week. So we need to make sure that they can access the material with that modality of accessing the internet. And then how can we ensure students have appropriate hardware to access this stuff? Well, fortunately, we've been able to work out an iPad loan scheme for the specialist maths students, so those enrolled on BSc mathematics. So we'll be loaning them iPads and pencils. Although we would also like them to have a laptop, and there is a university loan scheme, the plan is that most of the sessions will be accessible with just an iPad. And the way that we can do this really neatly is by taking advantage of the split screen mode in an iPad. Most tablets have a function like this. So here we have the left-hand side, this is a Zoom call, and then on the right-hand side, these are students' notes that they're making from that lecture. So they're able to access the online video lecture entirely on one device. So just some words about kind of how to encourage this remote engagement. So we found that if we get the videos up quickly, ideally the same day as the lecture, then the students tend to access them more. I would also recommend getting a high quality microphone, so not using and allowing a built-in mic on a laptop. They're typically kind of low quality because although video quality is quite difficult to get right, audio quality really does make people feel like they're in the same room, which helps bring people together, I think. We've had great success using the breakout room feature in Zoom for these video lectures. So for example, with these iPads, with having the students' handwritten notes on the iPad, it means they're able to share this screen of their handwritten notes very quickly and easily so that we can peer over their shoulder and see what they're doing. Also think ahead about how you're going to, if you can get some good analytics on the videos that you produce. So the hosting platform we use is Kaltura. It does give really good analytics. So you see here, there's a graph underneath this video, which shows student engagement with the video over time. And as you see at the kind of 40-minute mark, it starts to drop off quite rapidly. But it does mean that we can see which bits of the video students are very interested in looking at, and then possibly use that to make kind of targeted, polished 5-minute videos about particular topics, responding to the students' use. So that's it. Are there any questions? I have answered some of the usual ones in a direct way there.
There's a lot coming through, Nick. So first of all, thank you for the talk. There's I mean, first thing that came through in the chat and on Padlet is that there was a lot of love for when you said that you didn't edit the videos.
Right. Okay. Great. Yes.
That seems to have gone down very well. That we're happy that we're not robots and that students can see our mistakes. There was a question to do with that of understanding how you spot your mistake. So when you don't edit and you show that there's a mistake in there, do you try and explain to students how you've spotted that you've made a mistake?
Yes, so I suppose something like if you take a linear algebra problem where you're expecting to get some real eigenvalues and you don't, something like that, or we have an idea where a solution is going, you accidentally kind of make a mistake and you end up with something kind of that you can't solve for whatever reason, and good mathematical reasons why you've not been able to get the solution that you're expecting. Is a helpful thing to signpost to students, because inevitably when we mark a work or provide feedback, there's a kind of, here's where you could have spotted that you've made a mistake. Did you even try? Did you test this solution? Tested this was a solution or something like that. So yes, all of that sort of stuff. It's good to have as a real dialogue rather than just scribbles on a piece of paper they get 2 weeks after the fact, maybe.
Yeah, things like if you ended up with a probability that wasn't between 0 and 1,
exactly.
Alarm bells start ringing. That
absolutely. Yes, we inevitably get scripts from time to time with probabilities bigger than 1, and yes, by making mistakes like that, you do help the students spot similar mistakes themselves, or just get them into the habit of looking for mistakes.
So you may have answered this towards the end. I was sort of looking through questions as you were doing this, but there was a question about bookmarking videos and how do students move to the bookmarks? How does that happen?
So I've not yet, as I say, this is on the wish list. So I've not yet worked out the technical details of this. So there are ways of doing this in Kaltura, for example, which is our online video hosting platform. We can add bookmarks there once the videos are uploaded. What is not immediately clear to me is if those bookmarks are preserved if I then download the video afterwards, because I wouldn't want to have to do the same work twice. In fact, what we could do is enlist the students to actually help bookmark the video. So, okay, look, here's the video, then perhaps go through it and bookmark the important bits, and then it's another way of getting them to comb through the material, make sure they can see what is available in each lecture. I mean, that would be particularly useful for students who are unable to attend the real-time lecture. So, okay, if you're unable to attend the lecture in real time, then please add some bookmarks for everyone's benefit as a way of encouraging student engagement there.
Can I also add something there as well, since my name's down on this talk? No, I mean, in terms of the bookmarking, there is other functionality as well. So there's kind of you can do pop-outs and pop-out kind of links to other videos as well, which can be quite useful on Kaltura. It's basically the same as a YouTube video. So YouTube does all these things as well. But there's a lot of kind of functionality. I think both Nick and I have not really tried this very much yet, but it could be really useful in some of the really long recordings.
Is there any sort of breakout room functionality as well, so where you can get students to discuss things?
So
yes, we're using Zoom. So Zoom has breakout rooms.
Okay. And Teams has something similar as well if the university's going down that route. So yeah, that's possible. In that case, I'll have one final question. Something. Let's have a look. Oh, there was one question about how did you project your iPad wirelessly?
Yes. So how did this work, Matt?
Well, we had so there you can buy little dongles that just kind of attach to the HDMI input of your projector. But the universities, I have to say, the universities got the hardware in a lot of the rooms at the university. The hardware is there so you can AirPlay directly into the projector from from
I've now remembered the name.
It wasn't just us. The university just installed this in all the rooms, so we could do this.
So we use them. They're solstice pods on campus, and the fact it's taken me so long to remember the name shows how long it's been since I set foot on campus. So yes, we use solstice pods in many of the lecture rooms, which allow this wireless connectivity. But any Apple AirPlay product will do it. You could get an Apple TV, and which is the little kind of box that plugs in, and then just plug that into a HDMI port, and that lets you do things wirelessly. But there are many non-Apple solutions. It's just the iPad is the only Apple device I own. But so I'm not a fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. But we use the tools that we were given, and they've worked really well for us.
Yeah.
Excellent. In that case, I will thank you again very much for the talk, and I will hand back to Claire for a minute just to take us into the break, and then we'll have 15 minutes off. So thank you very much.
Wonderful.